In the modern world, the pursuit of pleasure has become not just a pastime, but a lifestyle. Whether it's through binge-watching TV shows, compulsively scrolling through social media, indulging in fast food, or chasing the next purchase, many of us live in a state of near-constant gratification. We chase pleasure like a drug, seeking out the next hit to momentarily soothe our restlessness. But what if this pursuit, seemingly harmless or even necessary, is slowly eroding our well-being, motivation, and mental health? This video explores how the relentless quest for pleasure, especially in its instant and superficial forms, is silently destroying the very fabric of our lives. 1. The dopamine trap. When pleasure becomes a prison, dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, is often at the center of our desire for pleasure. Every time we eat something sweet, receive a social media like, or watch something entertaining, our brains release dopamine. This release reinforces the behavior, pushing us to seek it again and again. The problem is not dopamine itself, it's a natural and necessary chemical, but how we manipulate and overuse it. Modern life bombards us with hyper-stimulating content and activities that overload our dopamine circuits. Social media platforms, fast-paced video games, ultra-processed foods, all of these are engineered to be addictive. Over time, our brains adapt to these high levels of stimulation. What once gave us pleasure now barely registers, and we need more intense or frequent doses to feel anything at all. This is how the pleasure seeker becomes a prisoner. In constantly chasing short-term gratification, we numb ourselves to deeper, more fulfilling experiences like learning, connection, or mastery. 2. Erosion of discipline and delayed gratification. One of the key traits that differentiate high achievers from others is the ability to delay gratification. Delayed gratification is about resisting the temptation of an immediate reward in favor of a larger or more enduring reward in the future. But the pursuit of pleasure teaches us the opposite, to grab what we can now, without regard for the consequences. This erosion of discipline has profound effects. It manifests in procrastination, lack of commitment, and a reduced capacity to engage in long-term goals. When we're constantly giving in to momentary pleasures, we weaken our ability to stay focused, persevere through challenges, or build meaningful achievements. The pleasure-driven mind becomes soft, distracted, and undisciplined, a shell of its potential. 3. The illusion of happiness. Pleasure and happiness are not the same. Pleasure is momentary, happiness is sustained. Pleasure is about receiving. Happiness often comes from giving or striving. When we confuse the two, we end up in a perpetual cycle of seeking pleasure, mistakenly thinking it will lead to happiness. This illusion is perpetuated by advertising, media, and cultural norms that equate happiness with consumption. The perfect vacation, the sleek new gadget, the next dopamine rush, these are sold to us as paths to fulfillment. But once the novelty wears off, we're left emptier than before, and more desperate to chase the next fix. True happiness often requires struggle, sacrifice, and meaning, elements that the pursuit of pleasure avoids. By seeking only the easy and pleasurable, we deprive ourselves of the depth that gives life richness. 4. The loss of presence and connection. Ironically, in our quest for pleasure, we become increasingly disconnected from ourselves, from others, and from the present moment. Instant pleasures are distractions. They pull us away from introspection, meaningful conversations, and mindful awareness. When we're constantly entertained, we lose the ability to sit with our thoughts, process our emotions, or simply be. This disconnection breeds anxiety, loneliness, and a sense of purposelessness. Human beings are wired for connection and purpose, not perpetual amusement. But when our lives revolve around consuming instead of engaging, we lose the very connections that nourish us. 5. Breaking free. From pleasure to purpose. The antidote to the destructive pursuit of pleasure is not to renounce joy altogether, but to seek meaningful pleasure, the kind that arises from purpose, growth, and authentic connection. This begins with awareness. Notice how much of your daily life is driven by the desire for instant gratification. How often do you reach for your phone not out of necessity, but out of restlessness? How many of your habits are rooted in true desire versus mindless escape? Then, begin to reclaim control. Introduce discomfort into your life intentionally. Wake up early. Exercise. Read difficult books. Learn to sit with boredom. These acts of delayed gratification retrain the mind and rebuild discipline. They also make pleasure more potent when it does come, because it is no longer diluted by constant overuse. Finally, seek pleasure that aligns with your values. Spend time with loved ones, engage in creative work, pursue long-term goals. These sources of joy may not always be easy, but they are deeply satisfying. Conclusion: pleasure is not the enemy. But unchecked, unconscious, and excessive pursuit of pleasure can destroy your motivation, rob you of happiness, and disconnect you from yourself and others. The real tragedy is not that we enjoy life too much, but that in trying to avoid discomfort, we miss out on life's most meaningful experiences. In a world that sells pleasure as the highest good, true strength lies in restraint, and true joy lies in purpose.